Welcome to the Gospel Land. This is a conversation we're having around the book, The Gospel of the Resurrection Kingdom by Michael Adin Ackman, which you can see in the link below. Please go ahead and just take advantage of this wonderful, precise helping book, helping you to know that you're preaching the real gospel. Now, the gospel and provision. The the Apostle Paul wrote, and he was a great gospel preacher, it must be said. He wrote, He who lives of the gospel, he who preaches the gospel, sorry, will live of the gospel. And he gave the illustration that under the administration of the temple, the Levites were living on the offerings which were put inside the temple. So the people would tithe and then they would give to the Levites, and the Levites would tithe and give to the priests. And Paul says that was the ordaining of God, that under that administration, the Levites in the flesh lived of the gifts and the offerings of the people. And if the people were blessed, and then they would be supplying the temple with 10% or whatever their offerings and the first fruits, and that would fill the house of God so that God's servants would have something to eat. And we saw in the book of Malachi and the book of Nehemiah that there came to a time when, even when the priests were not doing a good job and God was not happy with the priests, God still rebuked, Yahuwah still rebuked the people for not bringing the whole tithe into the barn. He said, if I am a father, where is my honor? And the people were not honoring him with the most basic things which were required of them. And he was rebuking the priests and he was rebuking the people. But that whole system God put into play to make sure that there was a community inside the community who would guard the truth of the Torah. And so the Torah was preserved inside the temple, inside that holy place. He took a people out from the normal people who were not motivated by, let's say, wealth considerations, and he put them inside the house, his house, and they gave their lives to protect his house, which was actually like a bank. Because whenever the King David and others went out and fought a battle and came back with spoil, they would take half of that spoil, gold and silver, and dedicate it to Yahuwah inside the temple. This was the same practice with some of the nations around about, Assyria and Egypt. They used to go and raid temples from other cultures and bring the wealth of those cultures and then use them to dedicate it to their gods. And the Apostle Paul says that he who preaches the gospel will live of the gospel. So, in the first place, there's an administrative system put into place which ensures that there is provision. And this is initially the tithe, but it also includes the first fruits, and it also includes offerings. And then what I understood was that this is not just a divine administration, but literally, Jesus said, the worker is worthy of his hire, and that he's told his disciples, when you go to preach, don't take your wallet or your purse with you, because the worker is worthy of his hire. So, in other words, you will be provided for because you are going to preach this message. And it was Jesus himself who said in Matthew 24:14, I believe, or something like that, this gospel of the kingdom will be preached to the ends of the earth as a testimony, will be preached in all nations as a testimony. And only then would the end, or the new beginning, the end of that age come. But obviously, if he prophesied that it would be preached, then obviously he would make sure that what is needed, what is needed for them to travel from A to B, for them to eat, for them to drink, for them to be clothed, for them to live, all that would be needed would obviously be provided, and he does that. So what I can say is this: God has said to the people of Israel, Yahuwah said, it is Yahuwah who gives you the power to get wealth. But why does he give you the power to get wealth? In order that he may establish his covenant in all the earth. God has supernaturally ensured that there will be a release of funding to his people in order that his covenant, and we can say basically his covenant is the Lord Jesus Christ, but the Lord Jesus Christ brings the new covenant, which writes the old onto our hearts, the commandments onto our hearts. God will make sure that if you preach the gospel, you have enough to preach the gospel and to take it further and further and further. Okay, thank you very much. So look, just feel free. The book is in the link below. The Gospel of the Resurrection Kingdom, covering essentially what is the true gospel. Yahuwah be with you.